Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello, piano teacher friends. I am so glad that you're joining me today, especially since we are talking about one of my all-time favorite topics in the piano world, and that is collaborative piano. So I was very excited when I found out that the theme for this month is collaborative music. The theme encompasses a lot of different things, from collaborating in a student rock band, playing piano duets, playing in a jazz combo, and much more. But today I'm coming to you solo to be talking primarily about collaborative piano in the more traditional sense that we talk about it. I should probably start by telling you what that even means. Collaborative piano is a fancy word for accompanying, and it includes playing for singers, both soloists and choirs, accompanying all variety of instruments, playing chamber music, and even playing piano ensemble music, such as four-hand or two-piano music. Personally, I don't mind the word accompanist, but the term collaborative piano has become more popular in the past about 40 years or so because it denotes a level of equality between the soloist and the pianist. Many of these pieces that we're talking about with collaborative piano that are being performed have piano parts that are incredibly technically difficult. And the pianist is spending hours and hours learning them just the way they would a solo piano piece. So to recognize it as a collaborative effort is certainly more than fair. So that's a little background about the word collaborative piano versus accompanist. It really means the same thing, but some pianists really prefer the former collaborative piano. Today, I want to pull back the curtain of what it looks like to be an accompanist or collaborative pianist and answer the question, can you actually make a living playing the piano? If you've been around here for a while, you probably know that my background is in collaborative piano. I got a piano performance degree in undergrad, and as I was about to finish that degree, I had no idea what I was going to do for work. I loved playing the piano, but I didn't think having a full-time career as a pianist was an option. All of my friends who were graduating were either going to be music teachers, or because I was at a religious school, many of them were going to be music directors at a church. And neither of those things was quite what I wanted to do. Neither of them felt like the right fit for me. Honestly, I figured that I would work in an office somewhere and then just play the piano for fun on the weekends and maybe play at a church or something. I had done a little bit of teaching and it was fine, but I couldn't imagine doing it full time at that point in my life. And if I'm being honest, I felt a little lost as I was nearing my college graduation. And then one day, my piano teacher, who I absolutely adored, said to me, you need to go talk to Dr. Strant. And Dr. Strant was the head of the voice department at this small school that I was attending. And there was a sense of urgency in her voice, kind of like, don't put this off, do it now, do it soon. So I went to talk to Dr. Strant, and he told me that one of the staff accompanists at the school was leaving, and he was wondering if I would want to do some part-time accompanying for this small college. I'm pretty sure that I accepted on the spot. I couldn't believe that I was being offered a job where I would get to play the piano and get paid for it. He told me that to start out with, it wouldn't be a lot of hours, probably around 10 to 15 hours a week, but that if I went to see the head of the instrumental department, I could probably get more hours because the other accompanists at this school didn't like accompanying instrumentalists. I really didn't understand why they didn't want to play for instrumentalists because I was happy to play for anyone who would have me. So I talked to the instrumental department head and secured more hours accompanying instrumentalists. I got so much great experience during the 3 years that I worked at that job. I learned the basics of vocal technique by playing for hundreds of voice lessons. I sat in on diction classes and learned some diction rules. I played my first Hindemith sonatas and learned what that was all about. I even played the second piano part for a few piano concertos. And my colleagues, who were at least twice my age back then, were so patient and kind to me and mentored me, challenged me, and gave me tips that I still remember and use to this day. As I started to do more and more accompanying, I realized that not only did I really enjoy it, I actually had an affinity for it. I was a great sight reader, which comes in very handy as an accompanist. And I had good instincts for following and picking up subtle cues from the person I was accompanying. These are some of what I like to call soft skills that come in handy as an accompanist, such as being flexible, easy to get along with, but also tenacious. And I seem to have those soft skills in my nature already and was able to develop them more over those first few years of being an accompanist. I was told that the accompanying positions at this particular school would never be full-time. So I started thinking about going to grad school specifically for accompanying to learn more and see what else was out there beyond the small college that I had attended. I ended up going back to my home state of Kansas and attending the University of Kansas to get my master's degree in accompanying. One thing that I think is kind of funny looking back is that I only applied to schools where I could play solo repertoire for my master's auditions to get into the master's programs. Even though I had worked as an accompanist for 3 years and was applying to master's programs in accompanying, I didn't have the confidence to play accompanying repertoire at an audition because I hadn't worked on it with a piano teacher. Here's a little piece of advice. If anyone listening is thinking of getting a graduate degree in accompanying or collaborative piano, make sure you look at the audition requirements because every school is different. And if you apply to a lot of schools, you could end up having to learn a ton of repertoire, and you want to be able to show your best work at the schools that you're really interested in. So just be aware of that. You might want to narrow down your schools or try to find audition pieces that will work at multiple schools because some of these schools are really specific about what you have to play for the auditions. So I ended up at the University of Kansas, and while I was there, I worked any odd jobs and gigs that came along. I played for a ballet class, which I had never done before, so they had to train me how to do it because it's a really specific skill. But again, if you can play the piano, you can learn how to accompany a dance class. I played for a high school choir, I worked at a music store, and I accompanied singers at the university for their lessons and juries. And of course, I was doing coursework and taking private lessons. I had a fantastic teacher named Bob Koenig, who is an unbelievable collaborative pianist, and I loved working with him. He's actually out here in California now at the University of Santa Barbara. As I was nearing graduation, I started applying for jobs and ended up being offered a job in Arkansas at a small university who is creating a staff accompanist position for the first time. So it was a brand new position that they were hiring for. Prior to that, they had had piano faculty and retired faculty who did the accompanying. But as those individuals were getting older and not wanting to take on as much, they realized that they needed to formalize things and create a position that would be primarily accompanying. So that was my first full-time university job. And because it was a fairly small department, I was accompanying almost all of the voice majors, the instrumental majors, and then 2 choirs and some musical theater. So it was a lot. And I was also doing some teaching as well. It was a lot of repertoire to learn and a lot of work, but that's where I really developed the skill of learning pieces quickly. And I became familiar with a lot of the standard repertoire, especially for brass and woodwinds, because it was a big marching band school. So they had a lot of brass and woodwind students studying privately there. I was at that school for a few years, but I realized I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in small town Arkansas. No offense to Arkansas. And I was also the only member of the music faculty who didn't have a doctorate. And I guess I kind of got imposter syndrome or something and decided to start looking at DMA programs. So I ended up getting into the University of Colorado at Boulder and moved to Colorado 4 years to do my doctorate in collaborative piano. And I loved Colorado. It is an unbelievably beautiful place. And the University of Colorado Music Department is a unique school. This was about 10 years ago now, but they were really trying to do more than just traditional music education. So they had a center for music entrepreneurship within the School of Music, and they had sessions on musicians' wellness. There was a therapist on staff in the counseling center who had a master's degree in music and would work with musicians on performance anxiety and other musician-type issues. I don't think they do this anymore, but at the time, they even had students from a nearby massage school who would come in occasionally, and we could sign up to get a free massage. It was the best. So it was a really great school to be at and a great community to be part of. When I was in grad school, I was working for the university, accompanying a number of singers and instrumentalists, but I also got a job at a large high school in Denver as an accompanist. And I would help out the choir director with administrative jobs as well. And then I would play any gigs that I could find. I played musical theater at a dinner theater. I subbed at churches. During the summers, I taught at a kids' musical theater camp. I was always on the lookout for gigs. And I think that's when I started getting really good at finding gigs and being open to learning new repertoire or even new skills like music directing for musical theater shows. So when I was about to finish my degree there, I started applying for university positions all over the country. There weren't a lot of jobs open that year, but I applied for as many as I could, and I only got invited to a couple of interviews. This is actually a crazy story that I'm about to tell you. I had an interview set up at a school in Ohio, and I had some mixed feelings about the school. Things seemed pretty disorganized, and I just had some doubts before ever even meeting anyone from the school if it was going to be a good fit for me. So that interview was scheduled, but the week before I was supposed to go, I got a call from another school in California asking if I could fly out for an interview just a few days later. So I think I got the call on a Thursday maybe, and they wanted me to fly out on Monday. And this was a school that I was more excited about than the one in Ohio, even though I wasn't quite sure about California. But I went to the interview. I had a great experience out in California, met some really nice people, and it felt great. And I really wanted the job in California. It just felt like a really good fit for me. So then I really didn't want to go to the Ohio interview, but I knew I had to because I hadn't been offered the California job yet. So I get up early to go to the airport to fly to Ohio. And the way they had set it up was I had 2 flights to get to Ohio. I would do the full interview, meet all these people, perform all these different things. And then I had 2 flights to get home all on the same day. This was a small part of why I was a little skeptical, was that instead of paying $100 a night for a hotel, the school had booked me on 4 flights in one day, and I had to do the interview as well during that day. So I get to the airport that morning, and my first flight was canceled. I couldn't believe it. I was like, you're kidding me. And they told me that the best they could do is I could fly to the East Coast and then get to Ohio by 4 p.m. And I was like, no, I'm supposed to be flying home at 4:30. So I had to call the school in Ohio and tell them there was no way for me to get there in time for the interview. And so they said that they would reschedule for later in the week and they would figure it out and be in touch. Well, about an hour after I left the airport, I got a call from California offering me the job out there. So needless to say, I never went to Ohio. So I have no idea what would have happened with that job. So that's how I ended up in Southern California. I worked at this university out here for a number of years, accompanying choirs and instrumentalists and a few singers. And one of the unique things about this job was that instead of just rehearsing with students, they called them coachings, which is pretty typical for voice, but not as common for instrumental accompanying. So I was coaching instrumentalists when they came into my office, which I think was a really positive thing for both of us. The student came in knowing that I was there to coach them and give feedback. And it also forced me to do more than just play the notes and send them on their way. I also at that school had the opportunity to teach accompanying. It started by teaching just a couple of piano and organ majors as an independent study. And then eventually I was able to teach a couple of chamber music courses and accompanying courses. You might have heard me talk about how everything changed during the pandemic, and I ended up leaving that job and was home with my son for about a year and a half before getting the job that I'm at now, where I'm the director of a music school and I accompany the choirs at that job as well. So why am I sharing my entire career story with you today? Well, I think a lot of pianists don't know how many opportunities there are to earn money playing the piano. Not only is it a way for you as a pianist to earn some extra money, but we should also be telling our students, especially those going off to college and thinking about career options, that they can earn money playing the piano. There are singers, instrumentalists, and ensembles everywhere who are looking for pianists to accompany them. One of the great things about collaborative piano is that there are opportunities for a variety of skill sets. You might have a young pianist who could start out by just accompanying a friend who's singing a simple song, maybe for an open mic night or a talent show. Maybe you have a student who has a sibling that plays another instrument, and they could play a song together for a recital or for church. I know that logistically, it's always more difficult the more people that are involved in a rehearsal or a performance, but it will be worth it to have your students start collaborating at an early age. Some of the benefits to having students accompany is that their rhythm will improve. Believe me when I say you cannot be a good accompanist without a steady pulse. They will learn to listen differently and follow another musician. At first, they probably aren't going to be sight reading when they are accompanying, but if they continue to do it, they will also become great sight readers. And it's another incredible way to keep students engaged in music making. Who doesn't want to make music with their friends, right? It's a different aspect of music making than just sitting alone in a room with a piano and a metronome. There is a community aspect to it that can be really, really enjoyable for students. To me, this is one of the ways that we can create lifelong musicians by giving them opportunities where they can collaborate with others, telling them that there are many ways to earn money as a pianist, and teaching them the skills needed to succeed in these musical situations. As I was preparing this episode, I wanted to create something tangible for you all to say thank you for listening and also to help you if you are wanting to encourage more collaboration in your studio.
Hey everyone, it's Tim here, and I've worked with music teachers like you for over 10 years now. And in that time, I've really got to know the challenges you face and the struggles and pain points that you feel on a daily basis. Whether that's to do with students who don't practice, or you're struggling with low retention, perhaps feeling overwhelmed and burnt out, not having enough time for your studio admin, or not feeling like you're keeping up with technology. At Top Music, we feel that pain and we understand you. And that's why over the last 10 years or so, we've worked tirelessly and shared thousands of downloads, lesson ideas, videos, and articles to help answer questions and support you to solve these problems. Inside Top Music Pro as well, we've recorded more than 30 comprehensive multi-module training courses, shared hundreds of quick wins, interviews, workshops, and studio downloads, and given away 15 volumes of free sheet music. We've covered everything from teaching beginners to playing lead sheets to special needs teaching to studio marketing to Facebook advertising and group teaching, and now our newly updated course showing you exactly how to build a studio website from scratch. So we know the challenge isn't now about finding answers to your questions. It's about implementation and taking action. It's about working out what to do and finding the time to just make a start on it. In fact, just yesterday I heard from two members talking about their struggles to take action. And one of them said, "I'm overwhelmed with overdue admin and have no motivation to tackle it." And another who said, "I need to stop making plans to change my business and actually start making change to my business." You see, we've realized that one of the biggest barriers to solving your pain points and making lasting change in your teaching and studio business is now not lack of information, it's lack of time, organization, and accountability. It's just like when people set a goal to work out at the gym. We could all go to a gym and ask a personal trainer to set a training plan for us, but how do we find the motivation to actually attend the gym week after week? Gyms rely on the fact that many members never actually attend, but keep paying their dues out of guilt or that feeling of, maybe I'll go next week. And so that's why people who want to make an impact in the gym and with their health will either agree to meet up with a friend or hire a personal trainer to hold them accountable for being there and getting the work done. By providing a group of people and regular check-ins, the accountability keeps you making progress. So if you've been struggling to implement changes in your studio, if you've been struggling to work out what to do first when there are so many exciting ideas out there, or if you've been needing a push to set aside the time to implement the ideas that will make a difference for your students, then we've developed a solution for you. And what is it? Well, it's called Power Hours, and it's an exclusive service we're implementing free for our Top Music Pro members. It's an online accountability group that will give you focus and momentum to achieve the things you want to achieve and almost guarantee that you'll make progress. So here's how it's going to work. What we're going to do is set up 3 sessions each week in time zones to suit teachers in countries around the United States and in Europe and the Australian time zones, where you'll come together on a Zoom call for 1 hour of your own productive work time. We'll have a Top Music team member running each session, and they'll do a quick 5-minute check-in at the start, and then everyone's going to mute their microphones and get to work. We'll be giving you a printed tracking sheet to help you set and track goals during each session. So what will you do for the hour? Well, it's up to you. You may choose to work through a course that you've started and perhaps never finished, or perhaps you'd like to set aside an hour a week to do your own practice. How cool would that be? Or maybe this will be the time when you update your studio website or batch write your social media post. It's totally up to you. Whatever you want to do, this is your time to get it done. There's no teaching your content from us, and we're not there to answer questions. It's just about being there for you and holding you accountable for getting the work done. At the end of the session, your team leader will wrap things up and encourage you to fill out your tracking sheet to prepare for your next session. And the great thing is you can join as many sessions as you'd like during the week, depending on the best times for you and the time zones you're in. You can find out more about the available Power Hour times and how to register on this page. I strongly encourage all members to take advantage of this free, new accountability and motivation service. In the same way that gym goers with personal trainers or those attending group classes will tend to make more progress, joining a Top Music Power Hour each week will have a marked impact on your ability to get things done and to enjoy that satisfaction of a super productive hour of work, whatever form that may take for you. I can't wait to see what you achieve.
So I've created a brand new free guide called Empowering Students, a piano teacher's guide to collaboration. The guide has 4 sections in it: why collaboration is important, what you should teach students about collaborating, ideas for ways to get your students collaborating more, and then a resource section at the end if you want to go deeper. To get the guide, just go to topmusic.co/piano33, and you will find the link to get your free download. I hope you will check it out, and I would love to hear from you about how you are encouraging your students to collaborate. You can find me on Instagram at Rachel Ehring. Thank you so much for listening today as I shared my whole collaborative tale with you. I hope that you have an amazing week, and I will talk with you again next week.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.